Texas healthcare workers would be the first in line for a COVID vaccine that is expected to come later this month, but they and you may have questions that today fall to UNT Dallas Assistant Professor of Law and veteran employment law attorney Mike Maslanka. So can your employer require you to get a COVID vaccine in order to return to work, Mike?
Yes, absolutely. An employer can require you to get a COVID vaccine to return to work. There are two little wrinkles on that. One deals with employees with disabilities, and the other deals with employees who have sincerely held religious beliefs.
Okay, but if somebody, for example, has an autoimmune disorder and is concerned, I mean, there's no proof that it's safe for somebody, say, with arthritis, they could opt out and be protected.
Yes, they can opt out if they have medical proof that taking the vaccine would make them worse. And the employer in that instance, though, has to discuss what's called a reasonable accommodation with the employee, which is just legal talk for the fact, can we have you work here safely?
Right.
Can we have you work here without having to take the vaccine? So that's exactly right, Tim.
Right. It could be, okay, if you're going to come back to work and you won't or shouldn't get a vaccine, we're going to put up a plastic barrier around you. You must use this restroom and not this restroom. You must wear a mask. You must wear a face shield.
Yes. Or if you've been working from home, continue to work from home.
Yeah, okay.
That's also a reasonable accommodation. But the employer has to discuss it with the employee. Not doing so is a violation of the law.
What about somebody who's in a healthcare setting? Could a nurse or a doctor say, I'm not comfortable with this thing yet? They are the most vulnerable, the most exposed.
Right. The same rule applies to them.
Yeah.
If they have a disability, the employer has to talk to them about how to accommodate the disability. And if they have a sincerely held religious belief, they can talk to the employer, and the employer also has to make an accommodation to that belief.
Yeah. That seems to be like that's the freebie card, is the sincerely held religious belief, because you can't question that with the rights that we have in this country.
Well, I would just add this. I don't know if it's a freebie. It has to be a sincerely held religious belief. You can't just wake up one day and say, I belong to the church of the anti-vaccination. That's not a record. That's not a religion. It's not a belief system. So it has to be a sincerely held belief, and it has to be a religion. Religion, albeit broadly defined, yeah. But you just can't make something up.
All right, I'm going to assume that this would, for a school, they could require the teachers to come in, but then you get into the really sensitive area. What about students who are minors? Can they be required to get a vaccine, or the school would say, just keep learning at home?
No, under the Texas Education Code, the school can require vaccination of students. Again, there are two exceptions that sort of mirror the exceptions we talked about. If there's a medical issue and you have medical proof that a vaccine would harm the child, then you can apply in Austin, you get an affidavit, a statement, a sworn statement, that the child shouldn't be vaccinated. The other one is what's called a conscientious belief, which includes religious beliefs. And the parents in that case have to sign an affidavit that says that getting a vaccination conflicts with their religious beliefs. But there's a catch. Here's the catch. If the Department of Health Services in Austin declares there to be an emergency, right, a true pandemic, then that exemption goes away, and the child cannot go to school without getting the vaccination. The exemption is trumped.
Okay. Because I know you lawyer guys are involved in every part of our lives these days. If my employer comes to me and says, you must get the vaccine or you cannot come back to work, am I going to be required to sign a waiver of liability for the employer? Is the employer exonerated? Should I have some bad reaction, or should I get infected?
No, I mean, what the employer should do is to say, you have to have a vaccination.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to have a waiver be signed. I think the employer should really have an open mind about all this. They should presume positive intent on the part of the employee, that the employee is not trying to scam them.
Okay.
You're going to have to get a vaccination. Here are the exemptions. Let's talk. Let's discuss it if you think you fall within the exemptions.
All right. And again, it's about people being reasonable on both sides. Mike, thanks very much. Really appreciate it.